so please.
Life is like that.
Okay, this meeting will please come to order. This is an adjourned meeting of the WBAI Local Station Board. So, where we are now, we were in the middle of the report by the interim general manager. Since the interim general manager is not here, actually, item of business number 1, I believe that Ife Griffin would like to say something. Is that mic on?
Yes. You have to bear with me too. I went to the dentist. I apologize to Paul Zilienzo and to all my fellow board members for my playful but clearly inappropriate attempt to lighten the tension at the board meeting on March 10, 2006 by throwing a piece of candy in Mr. Zilienzo's direction. The serving was not my intention to hit him with it, and I'm glad it did not. But it was also not my intention to frighten him, and for that I'm genuinely sorry.
Thank you. Yes, Patty?
I would like to be afforded the same courtesy of not dragging such an action out by removing my big statements made about me from my comments made at one time.
I'm sorry, I'm confused.
Well, it's obvious what's happening here. I would never, I wasn't here to see what happened, but, you know, it sounded sincere, so I'll accept it.
Okay.
So, will someone accept my apologies when I supposedly made racist comments, or that's different?
Well,
That's different?
was an apology made here?
Oh, no one bothered to do it here. They took it to the national board.
Well, I mean, but had you volunteered an apology here? Did I miss? Here, I mean here.
No, I didn't.
Oh,
An
okay.
apology here. No, I didn't. And, no, I did not.
All right. So we're moving along to committee reports and announcements.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Yes.
We were in the middle of looking at a motion last time, I believe, which we now, I think is now mooted, and we have to put that on the record.
I was just going to ask Baruti if he could speak to that. Baruti, could you take a microphone, please?
Good evening. I think the appropriate request to withdraw the motion, is that
Yes. Actually, you can ask to, if there's no objection, then the motion can be withdrawn.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I would suggest that maybe the chair should just declare, read what the interim general manager has said,
Uh-huh.
and declare the motion moot.
Okay. I'm happy to do it. I'm going to declare that motion moot. And I see that there's. I'm sorry. What? What I would like it if Baruti would explain what happened, so that people know what went on.
for folks that weren't here at the last meeting, the local finance committee had put forth a motion requesting that the LSB authorize the approval of a building fund account. We had received a anonymous donation of $20,000 to begin a building fund, and as a result, the finance committee put forth a motion to the LSB, requesting that the LSB approve the establishment of a building fund. Subsequent to that, to the meeting, we found out, the GM found out, and I also found out by speaking to Lonnie that the LSB getting involved in.
Could you say who Lonnie is, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Some people don't know.
Lonnie is the Chief Financial Officer of the Pacifica Foundation.
Okay,
As everyone knows, WBAI is part of the Pacifica Foundation, so he would be the highest ranking financial person in our organization. And it's his opinion that the LSB does not have, it's outside the purview of the LSB to get involved in fiscal items of this nature in terms of creating a particular fund, and that he and the IGM should work out the details as they relate to establishing this building fund account. So based on that information, that the bylaws, we would be acting outside of the bylaws, I'm requesting that the motion be withdrawn.
I just moved it moved, so, and as far as I know, there's no objection, so, and I believe also, just as a further update, that steps have already been taken to establish that. Is it already in the bank? Is the check already in the bank? But anyway, steps are certainly going forward on that fund, so this is good news indeed. Thank you very much, Bruce. Is there any more report from the Finance Committee? Well, actually, we were out of time, weren't we? Yes, we were. Okay, so moving on to the General Manager Search Subcommittee. Does somebody have a report?
Yes, I have.
Okay, Marion, would you please use the microphone?
Oh, yeah, please. We had a short meeting.
Microphone, please.
We had a short meeting to organize ourselves, and on March 2nd, we discussed basic questions about how to organize ourselves and next steps, and what the next steps would be. We agreed to contact the executive director concerning a budget for advertising the GM job description and the text of previous job notices. We will ask the Pacifica board for the Pacifica Human Resources rep to give us a briefing on what is allowed and not allowed in an interview, and recommendations process, and to provide us with a confidential agreement. I think when we come together, the search committee has to take an oath agreement that whatever we discuss in there that's personal should not be taken outside of that committee. We also tried to obtain a list of places where we could place a job where to be advertised, and we agreed to consider that at the next meeting. Our timetable for the next meeting is next week, Tuesday or Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday. Tuesday. And so our next meeting will be Tuesday at 6:30 at WBAI.
Thank you, Marion.
Thank you.
Yes, Serene?
I have a motion. Yeah, but it would be so, I thought it was easier for someone to just walk and come back, right? Oh, okay. How you getting it? Exactly. How cute. Oh, shit. No, I mean, I guess that. Let you. Oh. You guys got it? Okay, there are extra copies for folks.
Please speak directly into the microphone.
I am. Okay. Well, you guys will have to read along. This is as good as it gets. The motion is entitled Motion on the Election for LSD University General Manager Search Subcommittee, and it reads, whereas the local station board elected its representatives to the General Manager Search Subcommittee approximately 1 year ago, and whereas it was estimated at that time that the tenure of the subcommittee would be no longer than 1 year, but in fact the subcommittee has only just convened this month, and whereas elections are held annually to LSD representatives to the PND committees, and in fact were just held at the last LSD meeting, resolved that the local station board will hold new elections at its next meeting for 3 LSD listener representatives on the General Manager Search Subcommittee.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Oh, actually, Serene, you would speak to it first because it's your motion. Do you wish to speak to it?
Well, I think it's pretty straightforward, but, essentially, we held this election, I think in February, it might have been earlier than that last year, with the expectation that the work would take somewhere between, well, there were estimates of 6 to 9 months, or 9 to 12.
We don't think we hear at all, so just, if it's my fault.
It is on, so.
Yeah,
That's better, much better. Okay. I'll start over from wherever I thought I was. Essentially, when we elected people to this committee, more than a year ago at this point, the expectation was, and the expectation remains, that the process would take anywhere between 6 to 9 months, 6 to 12 months. But the committee, this election is more than a year old. The staff, unpaid staff elected their reps, I believe by April of last year. The paid staff did not elect their reps until, I think the decision was, the ballots were counted in either December or January. And trying to coordinate a meeting has been a challenge, but the subcommittee has finally met. However, people who this board sent up to do that work made a commitment, I would assume, for the year 2005, because we expected to actually get it on the road. And since it's taken so long, I think it is both responsible and reasonable for us to hold new elections.
Anyone else? Yes, Patty.
Who are the members from this board on the committee, please?
Three, can you,
The members are Marion Bornstein, Steve Brown, Mariana Gaston. The alternates, you want the alternates also?
Yeah.
Yes, thanks.
Yes.
Miguel Maldonado and Father Lawrence Lucas. And that's from our election of last March.
Thank you.
okay. All those in favor? One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All opposed? That carries. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the Management Evaluation Committee. We don't have a person from the Management Evaluation Committee here to give a report, but I.O. Harrington did get a message to me to the effect that the Management Evaluation Committee work has been delayed by the pledge drive and unexpected activities. The last writing session will be scheduled for next week. So that is the sum total of the Management Evaluation Committee report. The next item on the agenda is membership outreach and fundraising. That would be you, Ife? Or is it Evan?
Ife asked that I.
Okay.
Most recently, membership outreach and fundraising tabled at the Left Forum, which took place this past weekend. We raised $293 for the station from people buying T-shirts or signing up for memberships or buying a book or buying a CD. So it was very helpful to have some different kinds of things for people to purchase that had to do with the station at the table. We also had 2 people fill out volunteer forms. 6 people signed up for membership, and of those 6 people, 4 were new members, and 2 were renewing their membership. And we've been having a theme where when we set up a table, we ask people to give us an idea of what an ideal radio station would be like. What would BAI look if it was the ideal station for you? And some people wrote in responses and asked us to share them, and I wanted to share just 4 real short ones. One was keep doing what you were doing. One was BAI has opened my eyes to the world. I love everything done on the station and will never go back to mainstream media again. One was I didn't know WBAI.
Evan's mother wrote that.
No. Actually, that was a very enthusiastic younger person that wrote that. Which was kind of cool. Another person wrote, I didn't know WBAI was broken. And then another person, this next person is a 14-year-old veteran of the military who is now a member of Iraq Veterans Against the War. And he was saying that BAI, read exactly what he said. He wrote, if it wasn't for WBAI, I would not have had the courage and knowledge to apply for conscientious objector status. And because of WBAI, not only has he applied for the status, but he's become very involved in Iraq Veterans Against the War and has spoken out in various places across the city. So it was nice for people to come by the table and give some positive feedback on what they like about the station and how it's kind of had an impact on their lives. And what we'll be doing in the future is one of the things that MOF is doing. This is now unrelated, but we're going to be working on planning for hospitality for the Pacifica National Board meeting, which is coming in June. And we will be holding a town meeting on April 22nd, which is a Saturday, I believe.
Okay.
It's a Saturday. We have to, but that's a motion that, sorry, we would like to bring a motion to the floor right now to accept April 22nd as a date for the next town hall meeting.
Okay. Any discussion of April 22nd as a date for the town hall meeting? It doesn't have to be seconded, but thank you. Any discussion? Oh, yes? Patty, did you? Oh, people want to look at their calendars, I'm sorry. Well, the motion has been made if you want to speak to it.
No, I don't want to speak to the motion.
Is that generally, actually, I'm gonna, if there's no objection, I think we can just agree that it will be April 22nd. Okay? By acclamation? What, yes?
We don't have a site for it yet?
Evan, is there, Evan, is there,
Before we can actually ever get a location for anything, we have to know the date that we
That's
tell the
true.
location.
right, so date first, then location. So this would be the date. So if there's no objection, then we'll accept that date. Thank you very much, Evan. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, one more thing. Chip Brulé, who you probably heard his name from Premiums offered, stopped by the table and made a donation to the station as well. So that was kind of nice.
That is extremely nice. Thank you so much. Okay.
Just got a question.
Yes.
I know that you depend on bringing youths. Can you tell us what has been happening in terms of outreaching to colleges and high schools?
Well, when we used to have a halftime outreach coordinator, and when he was there, he would often go into colleges and high schools and speak to them. We no longer have an outreach coordinator, so we don't have someone from the station doing that. However, we did discuss at the last membership outreach and fundraising meeting we're going to work on going to different colleges around the tri-state area. We're going to start off in the city just because we don't have enough people and resources to do it all over the place. But we're going to be looking for for college students at different universities to be kind of point people and liaisons between WBAI and the colleges, specifically progressive organizations on the colleges. So, for example, one of the people that stopped by our table goes to Queens College, and after speaking to him for a little while, he said he would be interested in possibly being a liaison between Queens College and BAI. So we're going to look to do that and just start that off as a beginning project and see how we can grow it from there. But right now, we really need, from discussing it in the group, we really need more resources and support from the station in order to kind of branch out more than just a couple of people that we have in membership outreach and fundraising.
Okay, thank you. Patty, did you have your hand up?
Yes, can you tell me the last draft minutes and the last past minutes and where they're published for the Membership Outreach and Fundraising Committee?
What do you mean by they'll tell you like what was on the minutes?
No, committees should have minutes, right? And so I'm asking you where they are and where they are first of all, and what's the date of the last minutes that that are available.
Let me consult with the secretary. tell you the date.
Okay.
The date is February 16th
Uh-huh.
of the last minutes, and we're getting them right now.
Oh, okay.
And the
Thank you very-
previous ones before that too, where are they?
They're in a folder right now.
Okay. Evan, I don't know how we're fixed for time on this item, but
Um,
I'll be the timekeeper.
okay, thank you so much.
you can speak to me after the meeting, or
So do you need all copies of them, or will they be published somewhere?
what do you mean by published?
This is an open foundation, and the minutes are supposed to be published somewhere. Usually on the LSB site, there's a section for the minutes of all committees.
There are sections for those, but I believe they're all empty. I went on there a couple days ago. Yeah, I've never seen any minutes posted on any of the. I actually did check this the other day, and they use this folder system, where you keep opening the web page, and the folders open, and if you go to all the different LSB committees, the LSB itself has all of them posted on the website. But if you go on any of the committees of the LSB, for example, membership, outreach, and fundraising, or finance, or any of those, I believe that they're all empty.
Okay.
But you can check that yourself. Don't just take my word for that. Everyone can check that out at WBAI.org.
Okay, so maybe we have a task ahead of us. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the programming committee. Mia? The programming committee is the next item on the agenda.
First and foremost, come over here.
Microphone.
You can use the microphone.
Can everybody hear me? Our next meeting is going to be April 18th at WBAI, and currently we're working on a survey that we sent to the program council and to the program director, asking various questions. I had passed this out to you guys back in December of 2005. It hasn't changed. However, at this last meeting, there were additional questions that some of the programming committee members had that the program director, they asked the program director to just provide additional information. Normally, we don't give you, work in progress. I didn't bring any copies with me tonight. The moment it's finished, I'll be more than happy to give it to you guys. That's it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, yes.
Can you tell me some of the larger items that you're working on? I mean, what you see on your agenda as, in terms of goals for the near future?
Well, we have one large task. We have one large task, and our large task is to examine the process that is used to evaluate the programming. I will say it's monumental because I've given this out since December. I've done several reminders to the program council, and I got one response from one of the 8 members of the program council, because the program council does not meet, it never has quorum, and I go to every single solitary meeting that might have had quorum twice, so I can't get anything out of it, and I got the program directors. That, to examine the process, we need to get certain pieces of information that I passed out in December. I don't remember them verbatim, but I can bring them back the next time if it's not done. And to examine the process, it takes a lot of information. It requires a lot of information. So that's our one and only task.
Okay, thank you very much, Nia. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is public comment. We have 15 minutes of public comment. And if people will please use this microphone here. It's 3 minutes per person. Right there, yes. Is it on?
Is it on?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Instead of starting from the beginning, I think I'll start from the end. Okay. First, I would like to acknowledge Steve Brown's seemingly generous anonymous gift of $100,000 grant towards the building fund. Supposedly no strings attached. To use a basic adage of old with a twist, never trust a geek, G-E-E-K, bearing gifts. Amen. Everyone see that sicko, that email that Steve Brown sent this week? It was absolutely disgusting. Anyway, with my possible apology to Patty Heffley, since she was not here last meeting, I would like to repeat my offer, plus its conditions. Anyone interested in hearing it again? I guess not. Okay, I'll go to the beginning. Subject, R. Paul Martin, 312-3-1306, part of his program. Ray, continuation of suspension of board member. The offering of a piece of hard candy suggested to be sucked on and thrown to suspended board member. Again, pardon my dyslexia. Suspended board member. Discussion of $100,000 announced grant offering towards building fund. Bank account towards safeguarding the funds. So, quote, no crooks can get their hands on it. R. Paul, who are you calling a crook around here? Fundraiser that did not work out too well. Racism statements now coming to the fore instead of embezzlement. I thought the embezzlement issue was put to rest. The faction sycophant. There we go again. Speaking out against him to curry their favor. Since I am a man of my word, and that I stated if he kept referring to me in any way on air or calling me the faction sycophant, I would refer to R. Paul Martin as AA, anal aperture, or more to the street talk as asshole. Ladies and gentlemen, R. Paul forces and pushes the issue, so from now on it will be R. Paul or AKA anal aperture. But with more time, I would like to analyze AA's last program and come up with more details. Tell me, does anybody listen to him? Anybody knows what's going on with his programming and what he has to say? Can I see one show of hands? Anybody? Oh, okay. One. Program director. You're always on the job.
We're not being kind.
Martin, you're coming to the end of your time, so if someone else would like to step forward.
Is it
You
the end?
can always speak again. You can always speak again if
Okay.
you haven't come to the end of
Who's
15
next?
minutes. Who's next? Public comment.
Good night, folks. I want to comment on something that happened over the last weekend. The Left Forum. Attended the Left Forum for the fundraising outreach conversation. We had a situation again. This is the first event I went to that WBAI had two tables. One for and one against WBAI. I mean, at best it could be described as the greatest show in a democracy. At worst, it is what it is. That we have two groups supposedly seeking the interests of the station, and since we're working so hard against one another, we're working for the downfall of the station. This, to me, must be stopped. It must be stopped. It's nice to have differences, but when we kind of air these differences outside, then we leave the public who we try to win as new members or supporters of the station, we leave them in a very, very funny position. In the end, the station is what's going to be suffering. Now, something that happened at the last meeting that I'd like to see, that should be resolved. First, sorry, I should have done this first. Ms. Heffley, you weren't here the last meeting, offered an apology for the stuff I said about you. I hope you could accept my apology. At the last meeting, I asked for a tape of the proceedings and understand that it has some sort of factions that control these tapings. This is another issue that's showing the immaturity at WBAI. It should have one taping being done, and this taping should be made available to everybody at a moderate price, again as a fundraising venture for the station. We have something here that you have to be affiliated to a certain site to get tapes from whatever person is being done. I mean, these are the kind of nonsense, petty nonsenses that have far-reaching effects to destroy what we're working for, what we claim to be working for. Apart from all the beating around and stuff that take place at the meeting, that need to be stopped, we need to pull together. Any other outdoor event, I wouldn't like to go there and see WBAI pros and cons. If this had to be worked out at this forum, then let it be worked out, please. We can't be destroying WBAI internally right here in the meeting with all the nonsense that take place, and then go outside and do it the same way. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Next. Pat.
Since this seems to be a comment and innuendo and attack period, I would like to answer some of these innuendos and attacks. First of all, I was one of the people that first at the table at the Health Fix WBAI table at the Left Forum. I did not do this because I want to tear down or destroy WBAI. I love WBAI. I'm a subscriber. I want to make the station better. I want to hear from other listeners what they like about this station, what they dislike, what they think could be improved. I want to encourage people to become more involved, and that is why I was at that table. We got some very interesting responses from people, and nobody there was discouraging people from pledging or from listening, and we were encouraging people to, if they didn't have time to listen during certain hours of the day, we were explaining to them that the archives were now available. And so what we were doing was positive. I am certainly not, and neither are my fellow tablers, trying to destroy the station. As I said, I am a subscriber, and when did I subscribe? Although I don't have to reveal this information, I subscribe for back of the book. I do listen to the program. I love the program. It's one of my favorites. I have many favorites, although one of my favorites, unfortunately, is not on the air at this time, Earthwatch. I still have many favorite programs. And I would like to wish, as many others have done, that we would not be tearing each other to pieces. We may have, in many cases, different points of view, but what we have in common is that we love the station. We need all different viewpoints. We need all different constituencies. And the only way we can do that is to tolerate, accept each other, and understand that there will be differences. This is a radio station. It's not a party. It's not some kind of top-down organization in which we all have to follow one party line. So let's please try to be more accepting of each other.
Thank you, Pat. Next. Is there another public comment? Yes.
Good evening, everyone. First, I want to thank our general manager, Bernard White, because program director, because lately we have had more covering of the abuses of children, of the foster care abuses, of ACS abuses, and also I want to thank the December 12 movement because they came forward and put the guinea pig kids on the spot. One thing that is extremely important, I think we're not doing enough. In the last 2 months, since the death of Nick's Mary Brown, the kidnappings by ACS has doubled all of a sudden, and it's impossible to think that all of a sudden Black and Latino parents start to beat up their children and become abusive. They have multiplied by 100% at least, even more in some areas. So we need to keep the pressure because everything we gained in 5 years of little changes has been rolled back in just 2 months. It's very easy to destroy, and it takes a lot of work to build. Also, I discovered something new that I think we need to start reporting to. besides family court, which is an institutionalized system of justice, there is something that I just learned is mental hygiene court, which is 100 times worse. All the people there, judges, law guardians, attorneys, are of one ethnic group, and all the others being brought in chains like slaves happen to be black and poor Latinos. Not only that, but one of our members was kidnapped just a couple of weeks ago, and she's not crazy. We have been visiting her every day, and she has been kept drugged because she refused to take the medications, and she has beaten repeatedly. So I want to invite everyone to have a chance to see what a bizarre place is mental hygiene court. She has a hearing, a court hearing. Everyone is welcome to come. It's at Bellevue Hospital on the 9th floor on Tuesday the 21st. I'm going to leave some flyers outside, anyone who wants to come and help us. We need to put this on the spotlight because this is bringing us back to slavery times. Thank you.
Thank you. Bertha, you have time for one more? Yes, we have time for one more person.
Anyone, if not?
All right. Oh, we do have, I'm sorry, Martin, we do have somebody who hasn't spoken yet.
I assume that I could make this point when this resolution is dealt with later, but
Please,
is that better?
The mic, yes.
My microphone technique is better. Sorry. I'm looking at the package that came with the resolution. Hopefully will be addressed later. And there's some emails attached as exhibits that several million things really offended me, but one thing in particular that I just can't understand how this kind of thinking even ended up on this board, which is an argument by a board member who I wish was here tonight, because I'd like to ask him personally if this is his worldview. And also, I'm sorry that Mitchell Cohen isn't here, because I've worked with him on a number of things over the last 7 or 8 years, and never had a clue that he would find league with someone who, if this is how the other member thinks this way. Essentially, this note, which is ascribed to board member Steve Brown, argues or strongly suggests or uses as a perspective that if WBAI didn't suffer from racial diversity, that WBAI wouldn't suffer from a whole list of maladies that have been hurled as alleged facts at us for several years now, arguing that the fact that Denver affiliate is in a place with an 88.33% Boulder, 88.33% white population, I assume more or less an all-white or mostly white staff, that they're successful, and they don't argue that this is a model that he pines for. I wanted to ask him if that's his perspective, because it sure as hell looks like it reading this. And again, I'm sorry Mitchell's not here, because I wanted to ask him if this is who he really likes to sleep with.
Okay, we've come to the end of the listener comments. We're moving on now to unfinished business. And I'm going to reiterate, I know it's at the top of the agenda, but I will be asking if people, members of the public, wish to speak here while we are considering these motions. There's a motion here, read the station telephone system. The person who had brought that motion, I believe, was Carolyn Burden. She's not here. So I think we'll just leave that there and move to the next item. Is a motion to admonish Doreen Roberts. And that was brought by Mitchell Cohen, who is also not here. The following motion was from the Pacifica National Archives Task Force, brought by Carolyn Burden, who is not here. So that brings us to the motion to disassociate the WBAI local station board from comments of Steve Brown. And the bringer of that motion here?
Yes.
Yes.
Passing.
Okay.
There's an updated. Where it doesn't matter. I'll do it.
Okay, everybody has a copy?
Um, just so people know, this motion was passed out not last meeting, but the meeting before that. And the reason why we're repassing it out is because it's been updated as of very recently, because of some recent emails, one of which was referred to during the listener comments. So I think I'll just read the motion as it appears.
Okay, thank you.
This is a motion to disassociate the WBAI local station board from public comments of Steve Brown. Whereas in a series of public emails sent to many WBAI listeners over many months, WBAI local station board member Steve Brown has engaged in an unrelenting campaign of vitriolic accusations against management, staff, and listeners of WBAI that damage the credibility of the station through innuendo with no basis in fact, thereby injuring staff morale, contributing to a climate of fear and mistrust at WBAI, and undermining fundraising efforts. And whereas Steve Brown has engaged in a concerted, long-term defamatory campaign focused on an individual member of management, Program Director Bernard White, calling for the firing of Mr. White, calling upon Indra Hardat to clean house, using his role as a local station board member to try to make sure that Mr. White is fired, and calling upon LSB members, listeners, and staff of WBAI, quote, just as Bertrand Russell once convened the Vietnam War Crimes Tribunal to, quote, convene an ad hoc ARC, Applicant Review Committee, to select a new program director, end quote, and in a flagrant end run around the bylaws provision that such a committee is only established if the program director position is vacant, and then only by the LSB itself, and that this campaign has often included racially inflammatory remarks, including the use of racial stereotypes as outlined in the excerpts from emails included in Appendix 1. And whereas Steve Brown has used his position on the local station board to send emails to WBAI listeners claiming detailed knowledge of what former General Manager Don Rojas and Bernard White have and have not done as management employees, and made baseless accusations against Mr. Rojas and Mr. White, as outlined in the excerpts from emails included in Appendix 2. And whereas Steve Brown has contributed to the exacerbation of racial tension at WBAI, at the same time that he has attributed WBAI's financial difficulties to, quote, the tensions, frictions, and politics of race, end quote, by suggesting that the financial success of the Pacifica affiliate station in Boulder, Colorado, can be attributed to its racial homogeneity, as outlined in the excerpt of an email included in Appendix 3. And whereas Steve Brown has used public emails instead of constructive dialogue to issue ad hominem attacks upon members of the local station board who have disagreed with his positions, and to belittle the struggles of communities of color, reducing any discussion of racial injustice and inclusion to an accusation of race baiting, such as calling those who disagree with his position, quote, defenders of the people of color, end quote, as well as attempting to foment racial antagonisms among listeners, falsely referring to WBAI LSB meetings as, quote, virtual race riots, end quote, and inventing alleged incidents to justify that label, as outlined in the excerpts from emails included in Appendix 4. And whereas Steve Brown has used his position on the local station board to spread misinformation to listeners and present false accusations against two staff members of WBAI, as outlined in the excerpt from an email in Appendix 5. And whereas the LSB is specifically charged under the Pacifica bylaws with the duty to assist in station fundraising activities and to exercise all of its powers and duties with care, loyalty, diligence, and sound business judgment, and one of the official purposes of the Pacifica Foundation is to engage in any activity that shall contribute to a lasting understanding between nations and between the individuals of all nations, races, creeds, and colors. And whereas such unsubstantiated charges, negative attacks, and racially charged rhetoric are extremely damaging to the station's efforts to increase listenership and raise funds, and furthermore run counter to the above stated mission of Pacifica, therefore be it resolved that the LSB disapproves of and disassociates itself from the aforesaid public statements by board member Steve Brown, and calls on all LSB members to desist from making statements that prejudge the performance of WBAI management personnel, indulge in personal attacks on management and staff, and undermine listener financial support for the station. And the LSB respects differences of opinion about station policy among its own members and with station management, and resolves that the LSB Programming Committee will offer to work with the program director to organize and co-sponsor a community forum with speakers holding diverse views on the nature of WBAI programming as part of the overall role of media in U.S. society, and the LSB Secretary shall forthwith publish the text of this motion and the results of the vote on the LSB section of the WBAI website and arrange for printed copies to be made available at the station and at future LSB meetings.
Been moved and seconded.
Point of order?
Yes.
I would point out the obvious, that this is about somebody who isn't here to defend himself. Does the chair think this is in order?
Yeah, I do think that this is in order, because this is not a disciplinary motion. There is no actual result to the person who wrote the emails. The purpose of the motion is to present a result to the board should there be litigation mostly, but there's no consequence.
Point of order, Madam
Yes.
Chair. I would cite the last part here, section 3, quote, "The LSB secretary shall forthwith publish the text of this motion and the results of the vote on the LSB section of the WBAI website and arrange for printed copies to be made available at the station and at future LSB meetings," unquote. That's very obviously some sort of disciplinary thing. You're condemning this person and what this person... Madam Chair, can I complete my...
Yes, allow him to finish, please.
Sort of right order. It is rather obvious that that would be disciplinary. I would point out that another member whom this body has chosen to illegally suspend has a similar thing up on the website as disciplinary action, as punishment. How can it be up? How can something negative about somebody be up on the website and not be disciplinary? If it's up there and it's disciplinary for one, it's obviously disciplinary for the other. You can't say, yeah, we're saying negative things about these two board members, but one of them is disciplinary. Oh, but one of them isn't. Well, that's disingenuous. It's make-believe. This is obviously disciplinary. It should even be done in executive session, as Roberts requires. And the fact is that the person you're targeting is here to defend themselves.
It would, I'm just...
And I point out, he said last time we made this meeting that he couldn't be here tonight. So it's not like he's just not here tonight. He said last time he couldn't make this meeting when we said it. So I would submit, Madam Chair, that this motion would have to be put off until such time as the member is here to defend himself.
There is a difference between the two motions, and that is the other one was disciplinary, in that person was suspended and remains suspended. That was the discipline. So I'm going to rule that point not well taken. And
Madam Chair, I must appeal the ruling of the chair on that.
okay. Well, I get to speak to it first. And then, yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. This is not a disciplinary matter. This is a matter of the LSB stepping back from statements made quite publicly by another member of the LSB. So it has to do with causes and effects with regard to the rest of the LSB, but there's no suspension, there's no censure, there is nothing that speaks to anything under Robert's Rules of Order about a disciplinary action. This is simply a matter of the board stepping back. So, Pretty, you wanted to speak.
Yeah,
I get to speak to this.
Yes.
I was going to echo what you said, Roger. This is clearly not a disciplinary action. It's simply a motion that seeks to distance itself or disassociate itself from the statements that were made by Steve, and it doesn't seek in any way to censure him in any manner. And I don't think there's anything that you can allude to or point to in the bylaws that would apply to this disassociation as a form of censure. Yeah, I'd certainly like to see it.
Paul. And then we have a number of other people wish to speak.
Yeah, well, obviously, again, You can't do the same thing to two different people, say one of these things you're looking at is disciplinary, the other isn't. Doesn't make any sense. It's also rather cowardly to not allow the person to be here when you're accusing him of stuff. However, the cowardice we've seen on this board is not new. Also, I would point out, yeah, please call people who are in here. I would point out.
I would ask you, or Paul,
Yeah.
not to use insulting language with regard to the rest of
This
the board.
is cowardly.
And that is
Let
insulting
a
language.
person
I'm going
has a
ask you
right to
please
face his
refrain
accusers.
from it.
It is a basic, fundamental human right that a person has a right to face his accusers.
Email him.
We'll speak to that. I'll speak to that later. I know I have one more time to speak. So please continue. So
Let me
please keep
continue.
track of the time.
All right. Also, I'll point out, this thing has 5 appendices. We're supposed to read all of this right now? I mean, this is, and it's been amended apparently. So I would say that this thing has to be out of order because it is obviously disciplinary. It is obviously not right to allow someone to face his accusers. And quite frankly, it's just cowardly really is the way it looks to me,
I would
Madam
ask
Chair.
you not to repeat that.
Well, I'm done.
I'm sorry, everybody can only speak once. So Evan, you're next.
Yes, yes, in support of the chair's ruling. Let us be extremely clear on what this is and what this is not, because it's trying to be spun and couched in a certain kind of way. What it is, it has nothing to do with the person of Steve Brown or any kind of action towards Steve Brown. Everything that is in this was publicly put out on emails, on bulletin boards, not physical bulletin boards, but web bulletin boards. All of this is public. Was sent to people who didn't even ask to be put on a huge email list. Who these people come to the outreach table and say, "How did I get onto this list where I'm getting these emails?" So, the reason I'm bringing that is for 2 reasons. One, it is very important that this goes up on a website because the whole point of this is not about Steve Brown. It's as this body, this local station board, will it associate itself with these public comments of his, or will it disassociate itself, the body, not us as individuals? And it's very important that that be made public information. In addition, this has nothing to do with cowardly or accusations. These are public emails that Steve Brown sent himself. He was proud to send them out because he sent them out. This is not making stuff up that we think Steve Brown said. These are exact copies and quotations of Steve Brown that he sent to various lists and emails. And that's why it's on here. And what this motion is, and I want everyone to be clear on this, is not a condemnation or a censure of Steve Brown the person. It is a measure about whether or not, as this local station board, if we are going to associate with these comments or disassociate. So please don't be misled into thinking other things. It is what it says it is and nothing else.
Steve Brown has published negative, vicious, public statements, and it is essential to respond. This is really a point of clarification. It is the LSB disassociating itself from the action of a member of the LSB. And it's important to do so. And just to take up Paul's point, where he says it's cowardly to accuse a person when they're not there to defend themselves, what on earth is all this? Steve Brown has, in a truly cowardly manner,
that term not be used.
Steve Brown has published again and again to wide lists of people attacks such as calling as a responsibility that someone should have been whacking Bernard with a baseball bat. Now this is really a call for violence, a call for a physical assault, along with other comments in here that are so deeply, deeply, viciously racist. I don't think I have seen anything of this character before in a long, long, long time. So it's essential, I think, for this board to say that Steve Brown certainly has that we disassociate ourselves from the conduct, the characterizations, and what is being sent out to WBAI supporters. And if I, just in receiving this in your email box, if you didn't know where it was coming from, you would certainly think you would drop all affiliation with WBAI if someone was acting as a WBAI member and putting out this kind of material. So I think this is an essential vote that we're taking, and it is a vote of, we should consider this a vote of clarification. That's exactly what disassociation is. It's clarifying the situation of the board and who is speaking for the board and the way they are conducting themselves. So we have every right to do that when he's not here, because he did this when none of us were there.
Okay. Patty, did you want to speak? Lisa.
I also just want to say that I support the chair's ruling on this. The person in question, first of all, this is not in dispute or in doubt or any way, as has been emphasized before. He has published it all over. These are his statements, whether he's here or not, whether we agree or want to disassociate ourselves from a state. We all have the right to have an opinion about this and to speak it freely, because he passes it on and publishes it everywhere, and has even recently taken one of my email addresses and used them to pass on things that were very, very inflammatory. And certainly, so I think that that we have to make this statement. There were things that happened recently. This is ongoing. It's nonstop, and things continue to happen and continue to pile up. And furthermore, he knew that this motion, it's not like anybody was hiding this. He knew that this was going to be coming. This was passed out before, so he was very aware of it. So it's not about being cowardly or hiding anything, but it's about taking a stance now because the times really call for it. And furthermore, he's always come back and debate and state his reason and how he feels about this. I'm sure we won't hear the last of it.
Anyone else? All right, I'm going to exercise the prerogative of speaking to this last. I'm going to reiterate that this is not a disciplinary action against Steve Brown. This is an action whereby the board disassociates itself from statements made by a board member who frequently identified himself as a board member in emails that were sent to, I have no idea how many thousands of people, but to many, many, many people, and on widely read websites. And this, the motion itself was distributed a month ago. The only new item in the appendices is the emails that were sent over Monday night and Tuesday morning, and I would think that those two emails, which seem to have incurred in some new, even more inflammatory territory, actually do call for a prompt action. That this board makes it known publicly that this may be an individual board member, but it is not this board. It is not this board, and that is the purpose of this motion. So I'm going to now bring to a vote. All those in favor of upholding the chair's ruling that this motion is in order, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All opposed? 2. That carries. We now move on to the motion. How are we fixed for time?
8:46.
So we have, are we out of time? No. Okay, so, yes, please, it's your motion.
Okay, as a person bringing this motion to the table, I'd like to speak to it and again reiterate what it is. This motion is designed to inform people, whether people that have received these emails from Steve Brown, people that have read these emails on bulletin boards on the web, people that have received forwards of these emails, any way that they have gotten this, or people that actually haven't read them but have heard about them. This motion is designed for those people to know that this board does or does not stand by those words that Steve Brown has said. And the purpose of this motion is to give every single person on the board the opportunity to show all these listeners whether or not they associate themselves with those statements. If they were to vote yes, that they disassociate with those statements, we know that they do not agree with those statements, they do not accept that those statements were sent out, and they do not align themselves with those statements. If someone were to vote no, they are saying that they associate themselves with those statements and support them being sent out.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Actually,
This is a signing motor.
Hold on, yeah,
Yeah,
actually,
you called before I did you.
Evan, I'm sorry. I have the floor at the moment. Evan, the purpose is for the board itself to, the majority of the board to make it clear that this is
Right,
not
yes.
official local station board
That is correct. I
position.
apologize.
People may have any motivation whatsoever
That's
for
correct.
voting against the motion.
That's correct.
Okay?
I will
We
not
should
assign
describe.
motivation.
Thank you very
But
much.
this is to give the board an opportunity to show that as the board, as a local station board, which was elected by listeners and staff members to represent the community, that we do not stand by these statements. It's to give the board the opportunity to do that because right now a lot of people receiving these emails that their only contact with WBAI is through the radio and what they hear about BAI, they might think that the board, because if they're seeing this coming from a board member, they might assume that must be what the board is thinking. And this must be what the board thinks and what is actually happening. And we are giving the board an opportunity to say very clearly to the community that we do not stand by these statements. These are outrageous, racist statements. Okay, I want to point to these appendices, and I hope that everyone reads them. To call a black man aping someone, that is racist. To say that someone should hit him with a baseball bat, that is racist. But I also am more concerned about the way that things that we do are belittled. To say that people taking up the struggle for social justice are taking on the mantle of the defenders of people of color is not only insulting, it is disgraceful. It is belittling a struggle that has been going on. I'm part of the struggle, but I haven't even suffered under it. I can only imagine what it feels like for someone who has suffered under injustice to say that people that are taking upon that struggle are the defenders of people of color. How belittling. How offensive. To talk about community meetings that LSB members have had with community as Nuremberg-style rallies harkens back to a time that it is so offensive that to say that we support that, I mean, I'm trying to remain calm right now, and the emotions that come out of that are coming from just saying that word, let alone reading it and thinking that someone said that. To call these meetings virtual race riots, not only does that give an image of what is going on here, it belittles actual race riots that have happened in the past. To associate what happens here with race riot, let's think about what those words mean. They carry meaning. They carry weight. And we're giving this board an opportunity to disassociate from these absolutely racist and unacceptable ways of describing what happens here. And this needs to be published on the web so that people that have received these emails can know that, oh, the LSB does not actually think that. That's one person who thinks that. And those are the actions of that one person. And that's not coming from WBAI. Because not only are we sending out this image, this is causing us to possibly lose money. This is causing people to possibly want to file lawsuits against us. And this is giving an image of what BAI
I'm
is.
sorry, Evan, your time is up.
I apologize for going over time.
Start keeping time, so we won't have to double check. I'm going to call on Patty, and then we have several other people who wish to speak.
First of all, I will say that I find Steve Brown's many of his statements to be completely insensitive, and they are rather offensive to a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. I do not condone his speech or his elaborate way he says things. I will not assign motive to everything he says. I do find a lot of things he says offensive. That said, if people are happy with this station, they will discount Steve Brown's words themselves. We should give them the credit. We always say they're smart. We should allow them. A board member does not give up his free speech rights when he joins the LSB. But this board has been very happy to remove all the free speech rights of everybody. It's funny for a free speech radio network. Saying that, he's evaluating...
Sorry, there's a point of order. Yes, Serena.
Ms. Heffley's characterization of positions of board members with which she does not agree is assigning motive and is offensive and improper.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you, Ms. Heffley, not to refer to a desire on the part of this board to stifle free speech rights.
Oh, well, okay, they stifle free speech rights then. Okay, there's a complaint about, that he's making, Mr. Brown is making his own management evaluation. Well, we're in our third year of no management evaluation, There has been no management evaluation by this board since it's been pretty much taken over by the Justice and Unity, took over the management evaluation of '04 and this year, and so far, nothing. So, people are going to make complaints, they've got no choice. Now, I have an amendment. I would like the motion that's stated here to include, attached to it, amend to include that the LSB also disassociates itself from the comments of Ed Marshall posted to the Management Evaluation Committee against LSB member Berthold Reimers, and his comments, of which the LSB has received, will also be posted to the local station board website.
Point of order.
Yes?
The request is concern an individual who's not a member of the board, and we're not in a position to dissociate ourselves from that as board members.
Or he's a member of the committee of this board. He's a member of the committee of the local station board, and I'll remind you that the national...
There's a point of order.
I believe the chair speaks to a point of order.
Yes, the chair speaks to a point of order, and the LSP cannot dissociate itself from the statements of someone who is not a member of the local station board. If the committee wishes to, I suppose you could say it's the committee, but the local station board is, in this motion, disassociating itself from statements made by a member of the board who has identified himself as a member of the board, and the rest of the board is saying, hold on, this is not the local station board. I don't think Ed Marshall has ever identified himself as a member of the local station board, nor is he one. So it's not a fit there. This wouldn't be in order.
I appeal the ruling of the chair.
Okay, I've already argued to it. Is there any?
I'll argue my point.
Okay.
To say that is quite humorous because the Pacifica National Board just passed a motion that, if anybody doesn't know, that PUAC, the Pacifica Un-Pacifican Activities Committee, has been formed on March 10th, where they will appoint a 5-person national board of directors to investigate all incidents of racism and sexism among all the national board members and local station board members. As if this is not quite amazing that we are having our own HUAC, I call it PUAC or PRIC, Pacifica Reactionary Investigative Committee. So, see, here we have the national board. I mean, this really must be rescinded. This is offensive to me to be investigating people's business like this. But this, see, they passed it, and they're pointing to the committee, the local station board, which are committees of the PNB, and they're going to investigate them too. So that's why I would argue that your point, that my point of order should be well taken, as the LSB is a committee of the PNB, and the PNB, a much higher power than ourselves, is looking to investigate its committees. Therefore, I would say that we have every right, because it's offensive when a member of the Management Evaluation Committee would abuse local station board member, and LSB committee is a part of the local station board committee. So I find it a little bit strange that you would find any kind of difference.
First of all, we have to set the record straight. The Pacifica National Board, on which I sit, among others, did not create a committee with the name that the other member gave it, which is a name that is designed to evoke the worst memories of the McCarthy period. It created a committee that doesn't actually have a name, but that was specifically to look into incidents of racist and sexist conduct by members of the local and national board, which is something that, unfortunately, we've seen more and more evidence around Pacifica that we need to be looking into this to prevent the type of thing that we're having to spend time on tonight, which really go contrary to the entire mission of Pacifica. And I think it's a very important project that the National Board has embarked on. The idea that that has anything to do with the amendment that was just offered is fanciful, because we're talking about someone who is not on the board. Someone who is on a local or national board has a fiduciary responsibility, has a moral and civic responsibility to conduct themselves in certain ways that are of a very high standard, and that is the basis for the different things that are being done to look into conduct and statements that are made by different board members. So this is an irrelevant amendment, and it's one that doesn't apply, and I support the chair to amend that order.
Anyone else? Because I'll speak to this once more, and then I'll bring it to a vote. I'm going to reiterate the obvious, which is that if we, yes, and the public is also invited, by the way, to join us at any point. Okay. No, not an appealing of the ruling by the chair. I'm sorry. Excuse me. On the motion, which we will be back to shortly with anyone. The local station board is taking an action that is to make it very clear that a member of the local station board who has identified himself as a member of the local station board, who has made many statements identifying himself as a member of the local station board. The purpose of this is to make it very clear to anyone who had any questions that if it passes, that this is not the sentiment of the local station board. One member is not the board. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to ask all those in favor of upholding the chair's ruling, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All opposed? 1. Okay, so we are now back to the motion, and I believe, Don, you wanted to say something? And then Lisa?
Okay, first,
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't.
I think there's a number of people from the public. I'm just trying to find out when there's a public comment period on substance.
We're doing it now.
Public comment?
yeah, first,
On this motion.
yeah, on the resolution? Yes. Okay. First, one thing, I haven't been to every meeting the last 2-3 years, but I've been to a few, spread over a period of time, and been sort of morbidly entertained by watching the fighting that's been going on in the gameplay. But it's important to remember that, among other responsibilities, if the board has legal responsibilities, it certainly can put the station in a position of legal liability, particularly with respect to employees. And for the board to tolerate just the, absolute harassment of staff, and not immediately, at least now, but even immediately deal with it and address it and distance itself officially from it, in my opinion, it's not my area of law, but in my opinion, it exposes the station to liability to the employees. And so just on that basis alone, there should be action taken immediately to distance. These aren't even, these are outstanding statements about employees, okay? They would make a judge blush. So just that first thing. Secondly, on the issue of
cowardice. Okay, on the issue of acting in the absence of a particular board member or a particular faction, to use the word. First, I don't make anonymous posts anywhere on the internet, and none of the people that I work with do either, to my knowledge. Every email that I send out has my name, my mailing address, my home address, my home telephone number, my office telephone number, my email address, and my website. I stand behind the statements that I make, and I stand, I'm liable for those statements, okay? I don't understand making statements or positing theories about things anonymously at all. I don't get it. I don't understand what the value someone is supposed to see in it is. The other thing being, that whole part, is something in terms of cowardice that I'm just not, getting. The other thing is this: if somebody introduced a resolution in front of some board, any board, but particularly one that I held myself out to the planet as being a member of, that even collaterally referenced me as a racist, you're goddamn sure I would be down there addressing it. If it were me in this situation, I would have demanded at the last meeting that this resolution be the first item on the agenda, and the only way that I would have played any parliamentary games to delay would have been if that didn't happen. And so, again, on the issue of cowardice, I'm stuck.
Mimi, and then actually we have a board member who wants to speak, so let Mimi and then Lisa and then Bernard should kind of have pride of place. Okay, we have a lot of people here who want to speak.
We exist in a world. We exist in a historic context. Things don't float out in the netherworld unconnected to other things. If Mr. David Duke takes off his hood and runs for governor in New Orleans with a suit and tie, he is no less the member of the Klan, and he is no less destructive by virtue of doing that. Because someone sits on a board and associates with an organization that considers itself progressive, that is not the issue. He corrupts its very soul, and he operates in a context where James Byrd's murder after he is lynched is mimicked in our community of Howard Beach. It's real, it's tangible. It's an incitement to violence. It's an incitement to continue the systemic inequality and disparate treatment of groups of people, whether it's his comment about the South Bronx, which stereotypes an entire community, and predominantly of Latinos, whether it's characterizations about apes or towering black men that conjure up the most vulgar images that were propagated in the birth of a nation and are still rooted in our body politic, whether it's jeopardizing an individual's livelihood, libeling and slandering the organization, demeaning it, driving away donors, indeed coming up with statements that are actionable, definitely prima facie case of defamation here. But some people are too gracious and too concerned about the institution to necessarily even fully exercise their legal rights, unlike others who would go to the FCC. Now, the fact of the matter, this is a board member. This is also a member who contributes a great deal of money, has made public display. It is destructive. It is unseemly. But it's beyond that. It is racist. It is discriminatory. It is disparate. And it harkens to destroying the lives of people. It is white supremacist. And that's why it is with my greatest regret that it is merely a motion for disassociation rather than someone who needs to be removed from the body politic of this institution. And it is imperative that there be a public pronouncement on this so people understand exactly how virulent, how hateful, and that it is not just some backwoods person in the working class, but that there are people within the so-called progressive movement that destroy the ability for unity, movement building, and would take the very lives of people and their rights and trample on them. I'm cowardly. I'm scared of war and run away from it. I'm cowardly. I hate discrimination. I'm cowardly and fearful. Why did people get upset about the word cowardly here? What am I supposed to be, a fighter? In the government interventions against people, racism, make no mistake, is the cornerstone. White supremacy for our intrusions in all areas of the world. It's the building block, it's the cornerstone for imperialism. It's not harmless, it's not just using your voice loudly, it is a qualitative, distinct kind of hatred that has a material life that is capable of destroying people for nothing beyond what their complexion, their national origin, etc. are, and it is intolerable. And it is incumbent upon anybody with a sense of humanity. Free speech? Don't. The Klan has a right, if you're a civil libertarian, and I will wind up, to march. But people have the right of self-defense. I'm cowardly about something, but the right of self-defense is Bernard and everybody else who has been, over a course of years, whose lives were placed in jeopardy and whose character, and this institution as well, by the ranting, fallacious, in every sense of the word, vicious and discriminatory. And I appreciate the fact that people spent time to cull all this information together so that this man could be repudiated. Again, take off the hood, put on the tie, same thing.
We're rather over time on this motion. There's a motion, what? There's a motion to spend by 15 minutes. Seconded. There's, okay, all those in favor of extending by 15 minutes, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All opposed? That carries. Bernard, please. And I'm going to ask Lisa to speak next, and Patty wants to speak, and Bob wants to speak. Okay. I see you.
Yeah, as I've been telling people, we live in a very delicate balance at WBAI, and that there are things that can really throw it off. I came to this body I guess it might have been a year ago, and I said then that there is a person that is on the board who's been sending out these poison pen emails that are poisoning the water that we have to drink from. You know, I used to, just a little short story. There was a young man that was killed in South Jamaica back around 1972. And his name was Clifford Glover. And we did some research. Omar Wally was a part of the group that worked on it. And we recognized that the businesses in Jamaica, on Jamaica Avenue, particularly Gertz, which was a very large store, was responsible for bringing in these hired guns who wound up going into the community of South Jamaica and were responsible for the death of Clifford Glover. So we decided that we were going to take an action against Gertz. And we knew that we couldn't close Gertz down, but we knew that we could bite into their profit margin. So we held a demonstration. These emails that go all over the country and to our listenership do just that. They don't close WBAI down, but it does begin to eat into our ability to sustain ourselves. I had my landlord come to me with an email from Stephen Brown asking me, what's this about? This is long overdue. When there's no response to it, and I couldn't respond to it because it would just be me trying to defend myself, and everybody around me knows that these things are just insane. This last email is absolutely insane. It is a total fabrication out of the sordid mind of this individual. And I'm really glad that you're finally going to take it up. I think it means a lot to the radio station, that people will begin to see that this is not anything that everybody else is going along with, because silence on it means that there's some validity there somewhere. And these are total
fabrication. And I'm just, I just can't say how much it means, and that also you might have avoided having yourselves involved in a lawsuit. But certainly, these things are so actionable that there's going to be some response to them.
Thank you. Then Patty, and then Ray, and then our Paul. And I think that will be our time.
What about listener comments?
Well, we've had as many listener comments as we can. Everybody has 3 minutes to speak. We had a 15-minute extension. If people will please keep moving, we may and don't use their whole 3
This
minutes.
is specifically
We might
on
make
what's
it.
going on now.
Okay.
I just want to remind everyone that words can kill. Words are not just something you just say and then you walk away. Every time there's been an act of violence, it's usually been preceded by words, and words that create a climate that says this is all right to happen, which is exactly what has gone on in this country, and the refusal of people to stand up and to say, no, it is wrong. We will not tolerate this. Words, these might be words, but I want to tell people these things happen. They are not imaginable. There's one thing I read in here that was so disgraceful, in which he puts on paper claiming, and I don't personally believe, I believe somebody else, but he uses this to buttress his claim when he writes that somebody told him that they wouldn't cross the street to spit on Bernard if he was on fire. That happened. It used to be the thing to just hang black people, burn them up, put them on fire, and yes, people would stand there and they wouldn't walk across the street to offer them any water or to do anything. This is not something anybody's imagining. And yes, I believe that with a few more words like this and people calling for it, that there are people that would only be too willing to do it again. This is disgraceful. It's an abomination. There's another instance in here when he talks about countries like Japan and Scandinavia that are racially homogenous have never been crippled by racially generated strife, all as have the United States, Britain, France, lately Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, Spain, Italy, and Switzerland, which used to be racially homogenous, which is a lie about the United States, about this country, that exterminated the people, the indigenous people were here first. I guess some people don't have a problem with that. They don't have and if it was racially homogenous, that's how it became that way, because they killed anybody that did not look like them, and then brought others over here and enslaved them and killed and murdered them as well for their so-called racial homogeneity.
Is there a seat in the public, in the area for the public? Is there a seat there? Can somebody provide, there's actually a seat down there that is avail yourself of that.
Yeah, because people have never done anything, most of the time, never responded to these kind of things, is why these things have been allowed to flourish for so long. Because when you don't respond, you give the environment and the impression that it's all right to do it.
Thank you.
I have an amendment. At the end, after 3, 4, it should say, further resolved, the LSB will institute a day of board training to aid in the board's ability to exercise all of its powers and duties with care, right here. Sorry, wait a minute. Exercise all its powers and duties with care, loyalty, diligence, and sound business judgment, and the cost will come from the LSB's budget. So I'm saying that we need board training. Some of that, there's been a lot of talk of fiduciary and all the other problems, so I think that, we really never had board training. We had a little bit one time. Perhaps, people really understood their responsibilities, that might actually help. So that's my amendment.
Can you help me a little bit with the wording on that? The LSB will...
The LSB will institute a day of board training to aid in the LSB's ability to exercise all of its powers and duties with care, loyalty, diligence, and sound business judgment. The cost will come from the LSD budget.
Okay, so if I have this correctly, the local station board will institute a day of board training to aid in the local station board's ability to exercise all power and duties, exercise all its powers and duties with care, loyalty, and diligence, with sound business judgment. The cost will come from the local station board budget. I haven't heard a second.
Second.
It's seconded. Yes.
Point of information.
Yes.
I just want to clarify, is your amendment stick to adding what you just stated as a fourth paragraph of this motion?
Yes, number 4.
I don't see how it even remotely relates to the motion. I mean, it has no basis for.
Are you making a point of order?
I am.
Okay.
I'm trying to ascertain how it relates to the body of the motion.
Okay.
And what the motion seeks to do. In
I'm
my opinion, I want clarification on this. It actually dilutes the importance and the significance of the motion.
I understand your point, but I don't think that it's wholly non-germane. I mean, we can vote it up or down, but I'm not going to rule it out of order because I don't think it's entirely non-germane to the issue at hand that has to do with fiduciary loyalty.
This is my amendment. My amendment is that.
Well, wait, I need for you to. All right. I just ruled that that's in order. You want to offer a further amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
Point of order.
Yes.
Is there a stack?
No.
I thought I heard some names called.
There were some names called, but Patty brought an amendment, and now we're dealing with her amendment. So we now, yes, we deal with the amendment. And I'm not. Wait a minute. I want something to be clear. I have never stacked in these meetings, and I'm not going to begin now. All right, 3.
My amendment would
and the reason why I don't stack in these meetings, Paul, is because I prefer to hear from assorted various points of view, and if I were stacking, there might be one point of view that we would not hear from, and I don't think that would be fair.
Madam Chair,
I will not stack. It is not required by Robert's Rules of Order, and I would like for Sharif to bring his are you amending the amendment? Yes.
I'm amending the amendment.
I would run it to a point of personal privilege since you mentioned my name. The chair just read out a list of people before.
I did.
That's a stack. Thank you.
All right, but it's not a formal stack.
Okay.
It was not, I think that once Patty has introduced an amendment, we're off on a new discussion. I'm sorry. It is out of order to suggest that
The question was whether or not you took a stack at all. You just categorically denied it, but you obviously did it. Let's move on.
All right. 3.
My amendment is very simple. It would seek to reject the amendment that's being offered by Patty.
Well, then you need, but that's basically just discussion of the amendment. We're at the point of discussing the amendment. So if you want to speak to, Patty has the right to speak to it first. Patty can speak to it first. It's been made and seconded.
All this talk about, you want things to be better, right? You're talking about, or do you really want things to be better? I don't know. Because what I'm saying is we haven't had board training. People are not really aware all the time of, in fact, the national board hasn't had any board training. So we really do need board training. And perhaps if all the members of this board were much more aware of their fiduciary responsibilities and how to handle a lot of these responsibilities that we have, we might actually be doing some work instead of spending most of our time in these, political and, these horrible things. I agree, there's bad stuff in here. But, maybe we can, cut back on it by actually getting some board training. And I would really hope that people, and also putting this in here would also be a statement that the board is proactive towards trying to fix this issue instead of just punish.
Mary, did you have your hand up?
I would like to say something, but I know some people.
Well, but you haven't spoken at all this meeting, hardly, so, so speak, please. Marion, are you ready to speak?
Into the
Into the microphone, Marion, please.
I just want to say something about this whole thing. There has been a virtual diatribe. Hello? There's been, this has been going on for a long time. And we're finally getting to deal with this issue. This is no accident what he's doing, what he has done for the last year and putting this in. I'm surprised that he has not been sued for defamation of character. I really am. I know I spoke to my husband. He says, when are you going to do something about this, putting these emails out? It's very disgusting to the station. And he said the board has to deal with this issue. Now I move to separate this.
You don't need to. It's separate by its very nature.
Please, move to separate.
I'm sorry, but Marion, it's separate by its very nature. Bob.
This amendment is completely irrelevant and diversionary from what the purpose of this very vital motion is. The notion that a member of this board needs training to know not to be racist, not to malign people's characters, not to talk about the staff in a disrespectful and obnoxious way.
I'm sorry. Bob has the floor. Please do not interrupt him.
Or training not to engage in maligning members of the staff, especially, it would be bad enough if it was just a matter of name-calling and high-pitched accusations, but accusations that often as not are not even based in any facts, and in some cases, such as I want to draw attention to the very last appendix, the false allegations regarding Io Harrington and Tony Ryan, where Mr. Brown writes that Knight's office at the station was broken into by two employees of the station manager, Io Harrington and Tony Ryan. Now, nobody has ever even alleged that, which of course would be absurd for Ms. Harrington to have done, since it was her office as well. She shared the office. So she broke into her own office. This is the type of fanciful, totally false allegations that have come out of these emails. And the idea that training might rectify the situation, I think, is completely absurd. So I oppose the amendment, and I also have another amendment that I would like to offer, which is in the first action paragraph. Where it says the LSB disapproves of and disassociates itself from the aforesaid public statements by board member Steve Brown and calls on all LSB members to desist from making statements that prejudge the performance of WBAI management personnel. And my amendment would, at that point, introduce the new phrase, perpetuate racist stereotypes, comma, and then back to the original text, indulge in personal attacks on management and staff, and undermine listener financial support for the station.
Okay, we're now working on the, taking them in their reverse order, I guess. We're working on the amendment to add perpetuate racist stereotypes after WBAI management personnel.
Where's that?
In number 1, therefore be it resolved The local station board disapproves of and disassociates itself from the aforesaid public statements by board member Steve Brown and calls on all LSD members to desist from making statements that prejudge the performance of WBAI management personnel, comma, perpetuate racist stereotypes, comma, indulge in personal attacks on management and staff, and undermine listener financial support for the station. So that would be the amendment there. Is there any discussion on that amendment? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All opposed? 1. Okay, so that passes. Now we're back to Patty's amendment. Was there further discussion on that? Yes. Serene.
I think the idea of board training is a fine idea, and I'm glad that after engaging in behavior that indicates there needs some training, that this motion is finally being presented.
Serene, a little more into the mic, please.
It's really like, can you hear me now?
Yes.
No,
a little better, but
no. I'm sorry. I'm really trying my best. I think the idea of board training was fine, Mark, and I certainly urge the member to advocate for that in its proper setting. However, to suggest that, you know, it said that Americans or Americans of
careful.
Well, it is said that racism in this country is so pervasive. It's obviously something that people get with the breast milk. So while I think Mr. Brown's behavior, as indicated by these emails that he sent to a great number of people, including members who have said to me that they've never had a conversation with this man, that they've never given him their email addresses, that in fact that they've only given these email addresses to the station for use, and that they're completely befuddled as to how they somehow end up on his mailing list, which is something I think that he might want to address at some point, just where these emails are being harvested from. The idea that board training, rather than home training, is needed to resolve this issue is ludicrous, and it is this amendment is beyond a waste of time, and I'd like us to move now to vote it down.
Okay, speaking of time, how are we fixed for time in the extension? All right, we're over time on the 15-minute extension. Another motion to extend.
Motion to extend by another 15 minutes.
Well, all right, I'm sorry.
However long it
It's
takes.
I'm sorry, excuse me. It's not necessary to suggest another time in that manner. If we're suggesting times to which we're going to extend, we have a suggestion of 15 minutes. We have a suggestion of 10 minutes. Is there any other suggestion? We'll just vote them in descending order. Yes.
Are there more questions from the public?
Are there more members of the public? How many? Yes, we have 3 more members of the public who wish to
I would
speak.
ask that we extend by 20 minutes to afford
How many
members.
All right,
20
so
minutes.
we have, and here's another person. Okay, so all right, okay. I'm going to take these in descending order, because obviously once we hit the outer limit or whatever it is, then there's no point in voting on a shorter period of time. All those in favor of extending by 20 minutes, please raise your hand.
How many more minutes?
20. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, all right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All opposed. 1. Okay. Well, then that carries. And well, we're moving right along. Moving right along. Members of the public wish to speak to this. Yes. Martin, you've spoken several times tonight. I would like to allow the gentleman to your
Not on
left.
this issue.
I understand that. I would like to, first of all, allow the gentleman to your left to speak. And then, well, I'm not going to stack, but y'all can line up. But Martin, you have spoken several times.
I'll be very brief.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I picked
man hanging from a tree. There's a man hanging from a tree. Yeah. My Lordy God, we need training about how to tie it properly and what kind of rope we should use. This is an absolute false horse galloping away from an issue of horrendous hatred. We must leave it rapidly.
Thank you. Okay. Mia, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to commend the members of the board who are going to vote for this association. For those of you who were in D.C., you remember I made a very heartfelt plea to the people, to the PNB members, to please do something in terms of coming up with training, because racism does exist in Pacifica, and I will say that. I'd also like to say that since I find the venues for this place, I'm asking everybody, when you're done, could you kindly leave? There's safety that goes on before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. And I'm asking my fellow members in the public and listening audience, do not participate. The meeting is over, you pick up your stuff, you leave, so I can put Mimi's plates back together. Don't argue, don't entertain any conversation, because everything is taped and you don't want to incriminate yourself. I thank you very much.
All right. Steve.
Yes, I see. First off, if what was said earlier that Steve Brown made a $100,000 donation to the radio station is correct, it was said here tonight. I don't know how true that is. I wonder, is this a perfect example of why BAI is listener-sponsored, commercial-free, so that people who make substantial donations don't control the politics at BAI? And if the only way that the PD could be removed was if that a committee could be established to replace the PD, is that the PD is no longer in that position, and he is in that position, why is a board member going outside of the guidelines of the board to try to do this? Now, Patty Heffley said something a while ago that I think needs to be corrected. She said that since JNU took over the Management Evaluation Committee, I believe it was, or the board as a whole, that nothing has been done with the Management Evaluation Committee. As a matter of fact, that is not correct. Halfway not correct. When LISPROV controlled the board, they basically converted the Management Evaluation Committee to the Program Director's Evaluation Committee, stating that since the GM had announced his intended resignation, that we no longer needed to have a Management Evaluation Committee, but we should only have a PD Evaluation Committee. So, by her saying that, she distorts the facts and misrepresents what happened, because the PD Evaluation Committee has gone through the entire process, and now the evaluation for the management, for the GM, is being worked on. So to say that nothing has been done, you know, I just wonder where people get their facts from.
Okay, Martin.
I, as a listener supporter, feel personally that Steve Brown is an embarrassment and detriment to Pacifica in general and WBAI specifically. I would ask the Governance Committee to not just censure him, but remove him completely from the board. Paul DiRienzo is a case in point. I would also like to see Art Paul off the air.
Okay, Pat wanted to speak.
Stay right there, stay right there.
If I were a member of this board, I would be having a very hard time right now deciding what to do. There is a lot in this censure of the comments, of the statements of Steve Brown that I agree with, that I would want to vote for. That his language is totally unacceptable and inexcusable. And I would never speak that that way, and it really is a disgrace. However, there's a difference between language and opinions, and I would, excuse me, Helena.
Somebody, I'm sorry. I'm asking everybody, please, people allowed everyone else to speak. Please let Pat speak.
I would like to say that there's a difference between the language and the statements of opinion that he makes in other cases, which one may or may not agree with, but which may have enough basis that they really deserve people to think about and look into. So that I don't think that one can put everything in his emails and everything in his postings in one bag and say that it all deserves to be reputed or it all does not deserve to be reputed. I think that there's a bad precedent in passing a resolution such as this, in that it may become common, and it may turn into a situation where minority opinions of board members will commonly be dissociated from the board. I think that, we have elections coming up. We have people who are running for the board again, and they will want to be talking about things that they agree with and disagree with as far as the functioning of the station, perhaps the functioning of the board, and there needs to be room for disagreements. And so I just wouldn't want to see this turning into a precedent where it will become common for everything that the majority disagreed with to be dissociated with in this manner.
Okay, thank you. We have an amendment on the floor. Yes.
These remarks like these been going around for a long time. I remember listening to WBAI in the early days of Amy Goodman program. And it had a conflict then between the programming, Amy Goodman and Gary Knoll. I was listening to another station today and heard Gary Knoll, and that reminded me about the conflicts at WBAI. These things are never resolved. What is happening here today with these statements by Steve Brown, just coming out of that same pot. What I would suggest, though, is that the board set up a day and a time very soon where we could bring all the parties together and have an open ear discussion. Let these people give their heartfelt views, opinions, and let it be discussed openly. We cannot leave it to run about like this, because censoring wouldn't mean stopping in any way. They'll move on to another front and do the same destructive thing they do in the WBAI. Bring it here openly, and if it continues, then again, all you have this Robert rule hanging over people's heads. It's time to get rid of that and deal with it as we should.
Okay, we have an amendment on the floor. Are people inclined to continue to discuss the amendment, or can we vote on that and then move on to the entire? On the amendment. On the amendment. Oh, wait. Sarah wants to speak to the amendment? Okay. This is the amendment. This is Patty Heffley's amendment, number 4. Okay.
This is on Patty Heffley's amendment. Now, I feel that racism is so part of the air that we breathe in this society, and it's certainly more than pervasive at WBAI. Board training might be very helpful. But in this context, and I think Ms. Heffley's amendment is not just irrelevant, to the proposal, to the motion, but it's actually diversionary, and in this sense, it gives the assumption and the cover that Steve Brown's conduct and what he's writing is because he is uneducated to its implications of what he's doing. It gives him cover. Steve Brown is not only not uneducated, he's actually highly educated, enormously wealthy, skilled, technically savvy. It's not that he doesn't know. He knows very well what he is doing, and he's doing it very consciously, and he's doing it weekly, and time after time after time, in a very systematic way. He's making the most racist attacks, in a way saying this is acceptable conduct. He's doing everything he can to undermine not only the board, but the station itself, and to create a very vicious climate at WBAI. So I think there's no manner of education for Steve Brown that would necessarily change his conduct on this. We have a resolution right here.
We're actually at time. So
Okay, that talks about what Steve Brown has written. And we should be discussing that and not giving it some kind of cover that if he just had a little more training, he wouldn't have written it.
Okay, all right. We can either bring this amendment to a vote and then go back to discussing the actual motion. So anybody wants to speak specifically to this amendment before we vote on it? This amendment.
Yeah, I think it trivialized the whole notion. I'm absolutely nothing against, and I'm going to repeat what was said earlier. I have nothing against training, clearly that, but this is much more than that, right? This is an obsessive behavior. I can tell you, I've experienced some of it directly. One of my coworkers came to me, told me he got an email from a guy named Steve Brown. He wanted to know if it was coming from the station. I said, no, this is a board member who disagrees with some other people's policy. I said to him, well, so he asked me how did he get my number, because I didn't give it to him. I guess I made a mistake. I told him, why don't you just ask him? And later he told me that he sent a letter saying, you either tell me you got my email, or you take my name off the list. And guess what? He never heard from Steve Brown anymore. So that was easy way out. So I'm just going to add very quickly, although it's rather gruesome, but being Haitian, following the coup in Haiti, we saw the New York City police chief go into Haiti and train the bloodthirsty Duvalier killers so that they could become part of the official police and orchestrated the coup that we saw in Haiti recently.
I call the question.
Well, all right, the question has been called. All those in favor of moving to a vote immediately, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All opposed? That carries. We're going to start with the amendment. I'm going to read the amendment.
Point of information, was this on everything or
Yes.
only the amendment?
Are we calling the question on the amendment? Just the amendment. Okay. All right, the local station board will institute a day of board training to aid in the local station board's ability to exercise all its powers and duties with care, loyalty, and diligence, and with sound business judgment. The cost will come from the local station board's budget. All those in, actually, there's a roll call vote.
Yes, and I believe there was a sentence before that, was there?
Will the secretary please read?
Something? What did
Care, loyalty, diligence, and sound business judgment.
Right?
But what was the first thing it said?
The first sentence was the local station board will institute a day of board training to aid, etc.
To aid the LSB's ability to exercise all of its
Yes,
powers.
I just think I read it. Did I read it correctly?
Yes,
Okay.
that's right. Okay.
All right, so it's a roll call vote. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Borenstein,
For this amendment?
For this amendment.
No.
Clay, Issa,
No.
Flounders, no. Griffin,
No.
Heffley,
Yes.
LaForest,
No?
Lederer,
No.
All Paul Martin,
the people who are not here, by the way?
The record will reflect the people who are not here.
Since it's fairly unusual that this number
All right,
of
yeah,
people are not?
please, Mimi, we can,
I understand,
we have
but
eyes.
something is done by.
Oh, Mimi,
design.
please don't, please,
Okay. Jesus,
And read the minutes.
please, Ms. Heflin,
But it's
please,
an organized board
I would
meeting,
ask,
should be represented.
please do not engage in crosstalk. All right,
Okay, we have 10-4 to again.
no, 10, no, I'm sorry.
10 no, 2 4.
Okay, now so that leaves us with the main motion. How are we fixed for time on the main motion?
Tell it to Mitch when he comes
We have
to the
3 minutes.
meeting.
We have 3
Once
minutes
again.
left to discuss the main motion. We have 3 minutes left to discuss the main motion. Yes, our Paul.
Yeah, there are a couple of considerations here. One, I'll say, yeah, I mean, I certainly disagree with much of what Steve Brown says, and some of this stuff is really stupid. On the other hand, let me ask this. Do we really want to put all of this up on the website? I mean, if you're saying that you know, this is terrible to spread this around, aren't you spreading this around by putting it up on the website? Two, some of the argument here didn't make too much sense. It's being called a poison pen letter. Poison pen letter is something that's anonymous, and someone else said these are anonymous emails. Well, I haven't read all of this whole packet here, but obviously they're not anonymous emails. If he's got his name on it, you're saying it's his. I mean, is there something in there that's anonymous? So some of this doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. Also, again, I think this is unfair to do this without the person here to face his accusers.
Okay, yes, Sharif, real quick.
Yes.
Or actually, Uncle Wally caught my eye first, and if you can each take a minute. Sorry. Sorry, Jennifer.
You don't know what question
Sorry, Jennifer. Microphone, please.
38 seconds. What's happening here, and I guess reflected in the current situation out here, is very serious. It's very hard to take note of almost making it serious if it wasn't for the fact so many people cover themselves by other people's politics and hide behind that. The point that R. Paul Martin is making about Steve Brown and why would he do this, it's illogical. There is a logic. There's a logic to why an enormously rich person would even be here. There's a certain level of
let him speak to
there is a certain level of perversion that is going on in this country. And for people of color, and in particular black people, we find ourselves in a very serious situation because we're being removed off of the agenda. And that's what's serious. The jokes around the question around whether someone is traveling because they have the opportunity to eat is a classic one that was raised about brothers and sisters in Africa wanting to go to international meetings and that's the first good meal they had. So all of this, quote, shadow of this progressive politics that really hides a very deep, deep stream of racism and perversion has seeped itself for a long time, I think, as somebody said, onto the board. This board reflects exactly a lot of the stuff that's going on right outside in the street. I'm very happy with the folks that I have run with to be a part of the board, because I think if anything in the board reflects progressive politics, I certainly think it's the folks that I ran with. And I think we need to, in fact, seriously look at the suggestion that not tolerating this and take it to another level at another point to remove this kind of racism and fascism from our midst.
Okay, Sharif, quickly, then we're going to go to a vote.
I think this is the response to R. Paul. I think it's very, very important for as many people as possible who have been exposed to this libel and libelous and defamatory information be clarified and have a clear understanding. And the record must be set straight. And I think that the process here tonight has served as a clear basis for people who are conscious, who who are trying to do their best to make this a workable institution to set the record straight, so that information that is conveyed to people, which is totally unwarranted, totally untrue, totally racist, totally inappropriate, is refuted. Just as any information of that genre should be refuted. And I am very proud to be a part of this process that has given rise to the culmination of what is taking place today. And with that, Madam Chair, I will call the vote.
Okay, well, actually, we're out of time, so it's moved. We're going to vote. Okay. All right. There's been a call for a roll call vote. The secretary, if there's no objection, will the secretary please call the roll?
Okay, is that you calling the name of everybody on the board so the record reflects who is and isn't
Will
here?
the secretary please call the roll?
Okay, Burton? Point of order.
No,
This has never
I'm
been
sorry,
done.
excuse me.
The persons are not here.
Patty, I just opened my mouth to speak, and I would like to be allowed to continue to speak. Please call the roll of those persons who are here. Okay?
Okay.
Is this passing of the amendment?
No, this is the motion itself. We're now voting on the motion as amended by Bob. Do I need to read the whole thing? All right, and so hearing that unanimous desire that it not all be read again, this is the motion with Bob's amendment and without Patty's amendment. Okay, so will the secretary please call the roll?
Bornstein?
Yes.
Clay?
Yes.
Davis?
Yes.
Flounders? Yes. Griffin?
Yes.
Heffley?
No.
LaForest?
Yes.
Lederer?
Yes.
Martin?
This motion is out of order.
Is that a yes or a no?
This motion is out of order.
Not voting one way or the other?
No.
Motion is out of order.
If there's no objection, I'll direct the secretary to note that as an abstention.
Roberts? Tobias?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
10 yes, 1 no, and 1 abstention.
And how many people are not here? How do you not put in a record that half the board boycotted?
Point of order, call the chair.
Point of information.
Indicate that there's a boycott here.
Of information.
Point of order. I'm sorry. Madam Chair. All right, there's one point of order here and a question. There's a point of information first. Okay.
Will the minutes show that there were no unexcused absences shown for tonight's meeting?
Well, this is
Or will the minutes show that there were no excused absences?
Actually, let me ask the secretary this. Will the minutes reflect who was present? Yes.
No, it's who wasn't. There's a boycott going on here.
Yeah,
And
well, the
you
minutes,
are
Madam Chair!
please.
Please.
Will the minutes show who was not here?
Yes.
They usually do. They show who was absent. The minutes will show. The minutes will show. If I may speak, I have the floor. The minutes will show who is present, and the minutes will show who is absent at this adjourned meeting. Yes, Pat.
Just a question. Now, we have all this time to work on all this and work on all our, personal issues, and they are horrible. I do not discount that. But when will this board put all those committee minutes and stuff? You're going to have time. I'm sure this is going up tonight. So when are all the minutes for all the committees, which is our legal responsibility? When's that stuff going to go on there?
This is out of
I'm
order.
curious about that. It's not. It's a question.
This is out of order.
We're in new business.
There's a motion to adjourn.
Well, of course.
I make the motion that the meeting be adjourned.
Actually, there was already a motion, so that was the second. All those in favor? All opposed? 7 in favor, no opposed, that carries. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.